if you spend any time on the web, you'll see that there's all kinds of maps that most people don't think of as GIS. Flickr has a map to see where the pictures are. Real estate sites have parcel data so you can see where the sales are and do things like comparables analysis. We all and our families use Google Maps or Bing to find things and navigate around the world. Are these things GIS? Are they spatial IT? And again, the notion is that GIS is part of this broader whole of mapping has become ubiquitous. Electronic mapping has become ubiquitous. And what we do is really much broader than just pound software to create data and maps. We have to figure out how to use those data and maps, how to make those data and maps interact with all kinds of other things. Next point, there are new choices in the geospatial marketplace. There's new offerings from new suppliers. And again, hats off to the GeCo program committee from putting lots of new voices out here from Blue Marble to Autodesk and on and on. And there are products from things like Fulcrum or GIS Cloud or CartoDB that aren't represented here, but are very interesting and worth learning about. And even with the bigger established players, Esri has a whole new approach with ArcGIS Online. Similarly, Google, which has been a free, public-facing kind of platform for a long time, has a new suite of capabilities that they're delivering to the enterprise through Google Maps Engine and other technologies. And so now, with all of these choices, you have a real opportunity to think about what you want and think about what you need. So all this change, all this disruption gives you an opportunity to step back and say, am I solving the problems that I have to my satisfaction? And if not, maybe there's a better mousetrap out there for this piece or that piece. And indeed, there's a lot of really cool and interesting and productive stuff to look at. Open source software. There's a really interesting podcast from Directions Magazine at Dina Schutzberg in the beginning of 2011, almost 3 years ago, where someone put out there and they were like, who's the number 2 GIS vendor? Is it open source? And a lot of people stepped back and sort of said, gee, that's probably right. And there has been a critical mass in the maturity of the tools. And more importantly, there's a business ecosystem out there. There are companies built around open source tools. Again, the company that follows me, AppGeo, now called Boundless, is one of them. And they're following a model that's kind of tried and true, pioneered by Red Hat, where you can have open source software, but there's a lot of value in supporting that software and providing help to people who are trying to deploy it. Open source does not mean you're on your own and you have to be a super techie. And indeed, companies like Red Hat and Boundless provide insurance that if something goes wrong, there's someone to call to help you fix it, and assurance that there's knowledge out there to help you deploy it in the way that you want for the problems that you're facing. So really, in summary, open source has matured a lot, and there are a lot of companies like mine, federal agencies like FCC and NASA, states like Massachusetts and Oklahoma that are deploying the tools very effectively and in a production way. And the community is really vibrant. There are 850 people in Nottingham, England at the 2013 Free and Open Source for Geospatial International Conference, and there were 400 people in Minneapolis in May at the North America Free and Open Source Software for Geospatial. And again, the availability of these technologies, as I'll describe a little later, opens the door to hybrid systems. It's not either or, I've got to go one way or the other way. There's real opportunities to use existing commercial technology in association with open source technology. Next trend, the cloud matters. It's not just a buzzword, it's really, really matters. And could give a whole talk on this, but it's important to understand there's multiple flavors of the cloud. There's this infrastructure as a service, Amazon Web Services, virtual machines that you can rent out. There's platform as a service, things like ArcGIS Online, where you can move your data onto Esri's cloud and style it and publish it. And then there's software as a service, things like Shutterfly or Salesforce.com, where the whole software is hosted by someone else, and you're just using a web interface to get at their product. And what does that mean? It means hardware becomes less important. And hardware is a hassle, and hardware is expensive. And if you have a lot of hardware, you've got to air condition it, and things go wrong, and you need people or support contracts to fix it. So the notion is, and we started investigating Amazon about 3.5 years ago, and it was like we could outsource all of our in-house data center stuff. We can rent computing and storage on a consumption basis. If this stuff works, it's a no-brainer. And sure enough, it works, and it works really well. And we've moved as much of our stuff onto Amazon's cloud as quickly as we can. And in fact, the slide in the lower right that says we have a virtual private network in the cloud with 17 servers is inaccurate. I just got our bill for July, and we have 24 servers that we're paying for on a consumption basis. And this is how it works. And really, for small companies like mine, small cities and towns, smaller organizations, it's a huge opportunity. Again, hardware is not a limitation. Hardware is something that's available and affordable. And instead of a periodic capital investment, now it's an operating cost. There's a monthly cost. And this is literally a screenshot from our Amazon bill. And you can see I'm running Linux servers at 3 cents per hour, or a large Windows server is 20 cents per hour, or a large Windows server running SQL Server is 35 cents per hour, and then it just adds up how many hours we've bought and converts it to dollars, and my monthly charge comes out to about $2,000, $24,000 a year. So you can do the math, $2,000 a month for these 17, at the time, 17 servers, which have a cash value of about $102,000. So if you run it for 4 years, typical hardware refresh, it's $96,000 versus $102,000. It's marginally more affordable. If you do a 3-year refresh cycle, it's much more affordable. But it really isn't about the cost. I think my company, if the cloud was more expensive, we would use it for the following reasons. It's not just the hardware, it's their electricity, it's their internet, and it's their air conditioning. It's their managing of the infrastructure to keep it up and operating. If one of those server fries, they've got to fix it. And it's the scalability. If I need a new server, I can spin it up in a matter of minutes, literally. I don't have to place an order to Dell, wait for the boxes to come, put them in the rack, burn it in, and all that. Under the best circumstances, it takes a week. And if I make a mistake, gee, things are busier than I thought, and I thought I needed a small server, but I really needed a large server. With hardware, there's no rebate. On Amazon, you shut the small one down and you open a large one. So you have this incredible flexibility that's just not there and is incredibly valuable. Mobile matters. Everyone said it for a reason. The devices are here. A lot of people have the devices. The networks are improving. 3G and 4G connectivity over more and more of the country, and that's growing very, very fast, even in some of the more rural places. There's definitely still holes, and people want it. People use their phones. People use their tablets. I commute on the commuter rail in Boston, and 85% of the people are either reading a book on a Kindle or doing email on their tablet or watching television on their phone. It works for them. It's small, it fits in your pocket, and there's free Wi-Fi on the commuter rail. People are using it. And again, we've seen all kinds of different stats about why mobile matters. Pew Research Center in January, 87% of Americans have a cell phone, 45% of those have a smartphone, and 31% of cell phone internet users, their cell phone is their primary use of the internet. They use their cell phone to get to the internet more often than they use any other technology. So that's what's shaking up our world, in my view. The cloud, the drive for mobile, the emergence of new technologies for us to consider. And it's really led me to this best of breed outlook that I think has been very useful for our company and for our customers. So where does best of breed come from? You wouldn't want this big dog in the lower left, rooting out rats or rabbits, and you wouldn't want the poodle trying to herd cattle or sheep. Dogs have been bred for very specific purposes. And indeed, once you know what breed you want the best in that breed to address the task that the dog's going to help you achieve. And it's nothing new. We live best of breed in our daily lives. And there's this sort of notion in your mind when you go shopping. I want to buy the stuff that I like the best. I want to buy things that are best suited for the job. And I know how much money I have and what I can afford. And it's my choice about what provides the best value and cost effectiveness. So indeed, for my cars, I have a family of 5. I live in a place where it snows, so I have the Ford Flex, which is a nice minivan with 4-wheel drive. My wife does a lot of driving for her work. She's a counselor. So we have a fuel-efficient Mazda S3 standard transmission that's very cost-effective and a little bit fun for her to drive all around. And we kept our old 1998 minivan because we have teenage drivers, and it's a nice, sturdy car for the novice driver. And if it gets up over 75 miles an hour, it starts vibrating radically, and it helps keep them at a sane speed. And we do this over and over again with all different aspects of our life. I don't have all the same technology in my kitchen. I have a GE stove and a Samsung dishwasher and a Kenmore fridge. And indeed, in my personal computing life, I love my MacBook Air, even if it's not putting out the right video to be recorded. I love my Android phone. And at work, we have a Windows network, and I have a Windows desktop. And in my view, those are the best ways for me to get what I need out of technology. Oh, and by the way, they all interoperate. So this PowerPoint presentation, I can access it on my phone, and I can access it on my desktop at work. And there are other analogies besides best of breed. One size does not fit all, or the right tool for the job. If you have a nail, you get a hammer, you don't get a screwdriver. If you have a screw, you don't get a hammer, you get a screwdriver. You want to pick the technology that's going to help you best solve your problem. And that's not to say that versatility is bad. When you go camping, a Swiss Army knife is really useful. But when you're at home, if you have a steak, you don't pull out your Swiss Army knife, you use a steak knife. And you don't try and get a nasty splinter out with the little Swiss Army knife tweezers. You get the good stuff when you have access to it. And so we do have choices. We can buy the steak knife of geospatial technology, or the paring knife, or the meat cleaver, whether we're trying to solve a mobile problem or a web publication problem or desktop data management. And it doesn't all have to be under one umbrella. Or it could. It's perfectly legitimate to say that dealing with one set of solutions is convenient, and I want to do that. There's nothing wrong with that, but be aware of what the choices are. So what I wanted to do to just emphasize this thinking is go over 4 projects that we've worked on recently that have all had different technology stacks as part of the solution. So, and then give you some background on how we made that choice. So we built a public-facing website for the city of Baltimore, Maryland called CityView. The job was bid competitively. The RFP said, we would like you to use Esri technology, which was fine, we're Esri business partners. And the customer had existing infrastructure. They had ArcGIS server, and they had people who knew how to manage ArcGIS server. So it was a safe play for them. And we chose a customization approach that we felt would have longevity. This was 3+ years ago in the heyday of Flash and Flex and Silverlight, and we resisted the temptation to use those and went with HTML5 and JavaScript, which were more web generic and didn't require plugins, and indeed CityView runs nicely on a tablet. Another project we did for the National Association of Olmsted Parks, a nationwide website of Olmsted projects, and then in the state of Washington, access to historic documents and beautiful scanned original architectural plans from facilities that were built out. We used Microsoft, because one of the things that was really tricky is getting all those scanned historic documents into the website required a specific workflow, and the customer did that. And so we were able to build an automated workflow using SharePoint. SharePoint likes SQL Server, and oh, by the way, SQL Server has some decent geospatial capabilities, especially for the basics like drawing points and selecting points and seeing what attributes are on points. And Microsoft also has a nice nationwide base map in Bing Maps. And so we built this solution on that stack, and it works very well. And indeed, as they go to other states, the SharePoint workflow is available for them to continue adding images. The next solution I'm going to talk about is AppGeo. It's something that our company builds and supplies to cities, towns, and counties. It's basically a parcel data viewer that we host on their behalf. We built this using, at the time, AppGeo technology, now boundless technology. We're hosting it and selling assessor sites is very low cost, very low margin, and so we want to control our own costs to make it as profitable as possible. We also needed it to be scalable. If it was successful, we'd go from 10 to 20, and we have been pretty successful. We're up over 55 sites now, running on the same architecture. And Liren nailed it on the head earlier. I mean, the only thing that matters with a public-facing website is it fast, informative, and intuitive, and fast. And this platform delivers all of those things, the high performance, high reliability. And we wanted to keep it simple. How do you make it intuitive? You keep it simple. So where's the mostly part come in? Again, we host this in Amazon. So the AppGeo software has no license fee, so we can keep spinning up servers to keep it fast without incurring more licensing costs and managing our hardware costs. But one of the things that's interesting about AppGeo is 100% of the data that's published comes from cities and towns that are managing their data in ESRI. So the customer gives us geodatabases or shapefiles or whatever the case may be. We run it through some extract, transform, and load ETL routines to put it into the PostGIS format, which is optimized for publishing and keeps the site extremely fast. And again, we use the type of workflow you see in the lower right. And the last solution I want to talk about, again, is, I think a good exemplar of the best of breed thinking. It's a fully hybrid solution that combines elements of boundless AppGeo, Esri, and Google. It's the crucial habitat assessment tool that we're in the process of developing for the Western Governors Association. Had a meeting with that team in Denver yesterday morning. And again, hearkening back to Liren's talk this morning, we think the WGA did something pretty smart along the lines of preserving innovation in your procurement. They told everybody who bid on this RFP what they wanted. We want a website that does these things. They didn't say how to build it, what language, what software. As long as it does these things, we're comfortable with it. So they left room for the marketplace to provide innovative solutions, and they got a variety of responses. The RFP also required whoever built it to host it for 1 year, and then after 1 year, who knows, they may continue with you or they may take it in-house. Another thing about the WGA is they have no GIS shop. They have no GIS person, they have no GIS hardware or software. So if you were going to give it back to them, and there were license costs, they would have to buy stuff. And as we know, some of the commercial web server kind of software is quite expensive. They wanted basic capabilities, but they wanted highly customized. It's a really important initiative, and they used language in their RFP and in their interview process of, we want this to be a unique web destination. Was configuring something that existed the right solution for them? We didn't think so, and we left room to provide a very highly customized experience. It's basically high-performance publishing of one big data set about crucial habitats, and we're just coming into the beta testing phase. So what does the hybrid look like? So boundless OpenGeo technology is using GeoServer and GeoWeb cache to produce tile caches, which help keep the site very, very fast. And then the main geometry, I don't know if you can, you can't see on the screen, but basically the crucial habitat is the result of a model, and the result of the model is in hexagons. So it's basically just color-coded hexagons that say the darker the color, the more crucial the habitat, and each state ran a model to determine their ranking of why something is crucial. And what we're actually looking at here is an area around Laramie, and the dark areas are the most crucial habitats. And then we are showing one of the factors, which is riparian corridors and wetlands in green. And that's just one of the inputs about how land is calculated as crucial or not. So we're serving the hexagons out of PostGIS, and of course you can click on one and see the attributes, or you can draw a line and see all the hexagons and aggregate the data scores for that area. We're using the Google Maps API so that we can use Google's query capability and Google's base maps. Again, they wanted the user interface to be familiar to non-GIS people. And then Esri is used for data management. All the states, again, build their hexagon data in Esri, and the University of Kansas takes the state contributions and glues them all together to produce one giant data set that then gets pushed to PostGIS, where it's published very efficiently. So you can see there's a variety of ways of breaking down a project and trying to choose the technology that fits best. So in conclusion, a couple of ideas, at least my personal perspective on how you deal with these realities, this change and choice and best of breed notions. Embrace the change. It's good. There's some good new things out there. Check them out. Think about best of breed and one size fits all. Think about getting the tools that you want, the tools that you need. If you don't like something, look what else is out there. There's a lot, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And finally, it's not a question of, do I do this or this? Sometimes you're doing this and this. Back in the dark ages of GIS, when I got in this business in the mid-1980s and through the 1990s, there were silly debates like, is CAD or GIS better? No, you need both. They're different. Is raster or vector GIS going to win? No, the leading packages support both. And that's how it is in the current paradigm as well. It's not desktop versus the cloud. A lot of organizations need and benefit from both. It's not a question of the market leader versus new technologies. There's all this hybrid potential, and there's room for both, and it makes our industry stronger, and it enables better and better solutions to be put out there that solve more and more problems. And it, again, opens up this best of breed thinking. So, in conclusion, I tried to make the first sense of some of this stuff in March 2013, and I wrote a blog piece. And the conclusion from the blog piece is, with all this stuff going on, do I panic or what? And my conclusion is no. It's a great time. I haven't been as excited about this industry in a long time. It's interesting. There's new challenges. There's new things to learn. And that's what makes a lot of us tick. That's why we're here learning new stuff from a variety of people. And again, hats off to the SWUG community for recognizing this moment in time and having the guts and energy to reboot and put a conference like this together. Thank you.